All right, so we're back and we're going to continue with our conversation about graphing and writing equations of quadratics. And you went through the exploration last time on determining what is the vertex, what does that a value do. All right, you worked up to problems 9 and 10. Now what we're going to do is kind of continue that and try to make some connections to solidify your knowledge with the work we've done from tables of values, right? So what I'd like you to do, all right, you don't need decimals or anything. This is just kind of some prerequisite knowledge. Is work problem 11. And then 12, 13, and 14 here in your Unit 2 Lesson 8 packet here. All right, so go ahead and work those 4 problems. All right, so pause the video, work those 4 problems, turn it back on, and we'll see how you do. And then we'll translate all that understanding into one complete package. All right, so I'm going to throw this up out of the way. I'm going to get my work here. And so let's kind of go through what you have here. All right, so when we look at number 11 here, so hopefully based on everything we did, especially the exploration we did last time and the work we've done with absolute values, you feel very comfortable looking at an equation and identifying the vertex. So -1, -2. All right, so now we're just basically reviewing what we did in our prior unit here. So you can see that all my changes of x are +1 on the left side. My change in y was -6, -2, +2, +6. Now, what we talked about way back when, it doesn't seem like that long ago, was circling that vertex, identifying that vertex, that turning point. We said one way to do that was knowing that our rates of change go from negative to positive or positive to negative. Another way of knowing that, all right, is the symmetry, right? We can see that symmetry around the turning point. All right, so notice that we see that the vertex is -1, -2, all right? And we can see that in our equation here. We identified it up here. Now what we really want you to do is start seeing some patterns here. So notice, what is the a value from our equation above? It would be 2, all right? How would we describe our rate of change here? We would say it's increasing by 4. All right, so when we look at this, we don't see the rate of change in our equation exactly. All right, like we did with our slope and a line and our rate of change for an absolute value equation, right? But there is some subtle things here. So notice we would say that this is increasing by 4, correct? Well, a 2 is up here, so increases by 4, but we see a 2 for that a value. Let's go through the next few and see if we can start with a pattern here. All right, so looking at number 12, what's our vertex if we look at this equation? -4, 0. All right, look at my change in x here. All right, +1, +1, +1, +1. Okay, look at my change in y's. +12, +4, -4, -12. All right, that vertex is right here in the middle, -4, 0, right? We can see the symmetry around the vertex. We can see that we go from increasing to decreasing here. We've changed direction. Now, let's go back and make some connections. Notice our a value from the equation is -4. All right, now how would we describe this rate of change, right? Well, it's going down by 8 here, going down by 8 here, going down by 8 here, right? That second difference is -8. So we would see that's decreasing by -8. But we don't see that -8 in our equation, do we? All right, so -8 is how we would say it's decreasing, but we see -4. Maybe you've already seen the pattern. Let's move on. All right, we'll come back and summarize. Okay, once again, looking at number 13, if I look at this equation, what do I see? I see the point 2, 4 for my vertex. What do I circle in my table here? 2, 4. There's my vertex. All right, so I go up 1 for all of my changes in y. Now let's look at our, my changes in x. Now let's look at our changes in y. I go down 9, I go down 3, I go up 3, I go up 9. So how would we describe this? All right, my rate of change is increasing by 6. All right, increasing by 6. Now, once again, what's our a value? It's a 3. It's not a 6. It increases by 6. One more, and then we'll summarize a little bit. All right, so once again, looking at our equation here. All right, my vertex is -2, -5. I can see that in my table here. All right, I can see -2, 5 is my vertex. All right, so I'm going to add 1, okay? So that's all my changes in x. Now let's look at our changes in y. +3, +1, -1, -3. So how are those changing? We'd say they're changing by 2, and they're decreasing by 2 since we're going down. Now, once again, it's decreasing by 2, but what do I see for my A value? -1. All right, so there's two things that we really want you to see here. One is, if I go back, the A value is always, and I know some of you are thinking it, I can feel your future selves telling me, half of this number. So it's going up by 4, right? So +4, +4, +4, my A value is 2. Down 8, down 8, down 8, my A value is -4. +6, +6, +6, my A value is 3. All right. -2, -2, -2, my A value is -1. So that's a big pattern that we wanted you to pick up on, is that your A value is always going to be half of how your rate of change is changing, right? That we've talked about. Now there's another really big pattern with our A values. I'm going to just talk a little bit about it now, all right? And then we're going to actually go into this in a little bit more detail in class, all right, with you. But I'm going to go back and point out a couple things. So notice here our A value is 2. Well, notice our first two rates of change are -2 and +2. All right? So we see our A value is 2. Our first two changes around -2 and +2. Our A value is -4. Let's look at our vertex. Look at those first two changes around our vertex, +4 and -4. All right, our A value is 3. Look at those first two changes around that vertex, +3 and -3. All right, our A value is -1. Look at those first two changes here, 1 and -1. So that A value, all right, is actually going to tell us the first step, all right, away from our vertex. And there's also a pattern with these, but we're going to talk about that pattern a little bit more in detail, all right, together. So that wraps up this video. Do your video check-in, and we'll discuss this pattern with A a little bit more next time. Have a good night.